drive on up here and we'll get started.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Um, Hopefully we won't have too many things that we haven't answered in the past, but our budget requests are small. We certainly appreciate the governor's recommendation, and I'll go over a few of those, starting with how grateful we are for the 2% increase in our department. Although small, it's very useful. We start our driver examiners at 22,400, so anything that's moving that number upward is a good thing to ensure that we continue to reduce some of our turnover. But if we can go with just specific departmental requests versus the enterprise adjustments or requests, we start at line 21.2.4. And that's a request to increase funds for our Jackson CSC rental expenses. We have 10 CDL sites in the state of Georgia. Jackson is one of them. We were told, however, about a month ago that we needed to be out of the property that we're currently in about 60 days. So we are in a transition period and we'll be moving to a new location. This is not typical. We're a pretty big ship, so it's hard to stop a location and then start at a new one. But we were very, very fortunate that we had some we're going to be relocating to college. There is a location and a small building that is already there that we are currently in negotiation modify and use for our driver's license purpose at Southern Crested Tech. They also are in the business of training CDL drivers, so that was very beneficial from us. It's already there that will allow us to do testing. We won't have a 4-day CDL operation like we do in the current site in Jackson. We'll have a 2-day operation, but what we will be able to do that you're going to provide us is to work our way into a full-scale CDL operation again. Come July, we'll work hard with Southern Crested Tech, as well as the Butts County government, who we are also in negotiation with, to ensure that we can work to increase the number of CDL testing opportunities at that location. In the meantime, what we're going to do in order to fill the gap that we have as far as the 2 days that we won't be able to test. Normally we test Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday there, and we have some specific CDL schools that come over there to get tested. We're going to go out to their location and test them at their property. So we're going to put some of our examiners on the road, go out to them, and that will be our stopgap method until we can get to the appropriation and get the appropriate size of the asphalt we need to continue that testing operation 4 days a week. So that is the reason for that particular request, Mr. Chairman. If there are no additional questions, I move on to the next request. That's 21.2.5, and that is to increase funds for additional security at our high-volume locations. This is one that we spoke about during the amended budget. As we noted then, continue to note, we actually had another incident since we last spoke. Had a situation in Norcross just last week in which two customers, they came in, both carrying lawfully, but the exchange of heated, somehow they got into a confrontation with each other and startled the customers pretty bad. Norcross is one of our busy locations. We probably, at any given time, we got about 100 people in there because we serve about 1,000, a little over 1,000 a day. So startled our customers as well as our staff pretty bad. We were able to get Norcross police deployed, and they were able to get the situation piped down. But it's just one of the scenarios that we brought to you before and amended, where if we, in our high volume locations, can have security, armed security there, we hope that we can deter incidents that might occur in our centers. So A portion of that $527,000 request is for $320,000 of the 527 request is for that purpose. Additionally, a part of the funds in that $527,000 of request is for a vault program at least 24 of our centers that will allow us to make deposits in the back of our centers in a vault immediately versus the process that we have today. In some cases, we have armored car pickup. In other cases, we have employees that actually go out and do the bank drops. We've had 3 incidents since I've been at DDS, and we fear there could be more, but we had a recent 2018 a burglary in our Lithonia location, where essentially we're in a strip mall. We're located next to another property that was vacant or a tenant space that was vacant. They burrowed through the wall into our location, went into our back, stole our safe, stole about $7,000 of the state's money along with it, as well as important information that was in that safe. One of the things we have been working with is to increase the safety of our staff, as well as to ensure the responsibility of the funds that we take in is if we have this vault or safe program, the moment that we enter money into that vault, it becomes possession of the bank that we use. In other words, my staff doesn't have to go try and take that money at different times to different banking locations. And in some cases, we can stop that Dunbar pickup and have that money safely deposited right there on site. So we're extremely grateful for that recommendation and think it will help us continue the security of our centers. And Mr. Chairman, I believe these are the only requests that we have, and certainly I'm available for any questions that might come from you or the committee.
All righty. Anybody got any questions? All right, 2, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do thank you. If we could go back just a second to 21.2.4, the
Yes, sir.
Jackson Customer Service Center. I do thank you for reaching out to the technical school.
Yes,
Seems to be a natural partnership. Thank you for being a good steward for the state's resources in doing that.
Yes, sir.
So currently we're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yes, sir.
And on a short lease, we've got you mentioned that's going to 2 days.
Well, 2 days to the public. So what Jackson CDL site tests mainly 3 specific schools, training schools, technical college, I believe, and I don't know what this acronym is for, but a TDI is a driving school that does work, and they have specific slots, as well as the Atlanta Driving School. So these companies or training schools bring their students to our location, and we reserve slots specifically for these locations. So we were fortunate in that Jackson is one that doesn't really operate a lot with the public. It mainly operates with these schools. So we found a solution to handle these schools in the interim, and that's sending our folks out to them versus them coming over to us. And the 2 days that we'll have available are just in case, and we get this sometimes, where truck drivers want to come in, they're independent, they want to come in and test. We want to have that opportunity to be able to test those.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. I think in our last meeting, I mentioned that I do actually have a CDL, and
Yes, sir.
Chairman Watson wants me to deliver some cabbage next time I come up. So at this site, I can actually show up and get a CDL license. It's not just with these 3.
Yes, sir. At any of our sites, one of the things that we do require for our CDL test, though, is a reservation. So you make a reservation with us. We know in advance that you're coming, and then we allot. These tests take 2 hours, as you well know.
The ongoing cost of this lease with the technical school, is this an ongoing?
We expect this to be a cost that will at least so we have roughly, for the site that we were in, it was independently owned. I don't know exactly when we got into that lease. It was several years ago. Well, I do know. 2003 is when we entered that lease. We pay about 45, actually about 60,000, including the lights and utilities at that location today. It was landlord. He's been renting it to us for that long. He decided that he wanted to rent to a company that's adjacent to us because they're expanding their business, and we certainly don't want to stand in the way of expansion of business. So in that transition, he gave us a pretty short window to move out. What we'll do with the $140,000 request is seek a long-term lease, as well as probably we're going to move into a trailer, a single-wide trailer temporarily. So what we'll need to do is figure out a building solution long-term. We think that lease going forward will be sufficient to partner with Butts County in trying to erect something that we can then lease from them long-term. And at a later date, it'll probably be lower.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Those 4 days that y'all are doing CDL, do they stay booked up?
They stay booked up. That's one of our locations that stays booked, completely booked.
I got you.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Also, there was some adjustments in the amended for some rent, like 100,000. Do we need to do that again in this
Adjustment
budget?
for the rent on 100,000 is for our headquarters location. Yes, sir. That is a request that does need to go forward, and we spoke about that at our last meeting.
Okay. Also, the security measures. You said that was strictly for private personnel coming in, the 320,000.
Well,
Or is that
yeah,
improvements?
that's 10 locations, and that's providing essentially security guards at $13.25 for 60 hours a week.
Okay. All right. Anybody else got any more questions? All right. I think we're good, Commissioner.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
what you do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Next, Commissioner Riley. Welcome. DOR. Come on down. Good to see you again.
Thank you, members of the committee. Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity to review some of the details of the FY20 budget for the Department of Revenue. Similar to Commissioner Moore, we are very grateful for the merit recruitment or retention appropriations across the agency to allow us to reward employees that have worked so hard on behalf of the taxpayers and to recruit new employees that will continue to perform that hardworking service. For specific enhancements for FY20, I would direct you to tax compliance, section 42-8, and you'll see under 42-8-6, increase of funding for positions and contractual services that will help us customize further our integrated tax solutions system that will enhance our ability for remote sales tax and online sales tax collection, as well as the changes that have been asked of us via House Bill 918, the conformity with the Federal Tax Cut and Jobs Act. Also on line 42.8.7 is funding for auditors and revenue agents to implement the compliance in regards to House Bill 61, which is the Wayfair bill as it's been known, and will allow us to increase our enforcement across state lines as necessary to increase the revenue compliance under our new regime. In tax policy 42.9, line 42.9.6, this will provide for additional legal expertise for the department, again, to help us implement compliance efforts for online and remote sales tax collection, as well as Tax Cut and Job Act's compliance efforts. And in taxpayer services, section 42.10, under line 42.10.5, this will provide the department with additional positions and contractual services again, for these same purposes, increasing our compliance, enforcement, and collection efforts in light of these significantly new tax policy efforts for the state of Georgia. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any that I possibly could.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. I think we got a couple here. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Question on just the process. Just inform us on the process, how you came up with the number of folks that you needed. Just interesting to me to understand that process.
Certainly. We put a request into the Office of Budget and Planning that actually was a significantly greater number of positions in these circumstances. And we based that on our peer states across the nation, on the number of auditors per taxpayer, et cetera, et cetera. The governor's office chose these levels of funding, and we believe that for both periods, FY amended 19 and FY 20, it will take us time to ramp up and bring in the expertise that's needed. So their wise judgment in not having us have the funding for all of those positions and us not have the potential availability to fill them will give us time to ramp up and train the folks in the areas that are needed.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. So you mentioned other states. Where do we fall as far as auditors per capita? Are we okay? Obviously, you said you asked for more, so talk to us about that.
And I regret that I don't have the exact data with you, and I'll be happy to share it with you later this week.
General would
But
be
compared to all of our peer states in the Southeast, we are the lowest number of auditors per capita and per workload, which speaks in some ways to the efficiencies that the amazing team that we have here in Georgia and their outstanding performance. But we truly believe that the more we have in that area, the greater the collection efforts would absolutely be.
okay. Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, number two.
And that will be, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Commissioner, the part of the workload for these additional positions will be because of the online sales tax remittance. Is that part of that line? Is that what I understand? And I apologize because you've already stated this one time in one committee, and I have forgotten. When will we start to see, and I know it's taking effect, and you mentioned something about after the first quarter, and then there's a date that you had in mind that we should start seeing some of this, and I've forgotten the date, and I apologize. And
Thank you for that question. I'm happy to clarify. The compliance with remote seller retail collection began on January 1 of 2019. The House Bill 61 required a threshold of $250,000 of transactions prior to being required to collect and remit for Georgia. So a seller would have to reach that threshold to be required to comply. We did see in the fourth quarter of calendar 2018 a number of vendors voluntarily register with the department. The date that I think you're referring to is February 20th. That is the date that January collections will be required to be remitted to the department by. So we're watching the revenue collections over the next couple of weeks. We hope to see some indication of voluntary compliance prior to meeting those thresholds by those remote vendors.
We had a conversation about the fuel inspectors. I guess, can you give us an update and where we are with that and federal government and the problems that we've got there?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. We've had some progress on that front. The situation is a motor fuel grant that is coming from the federal government through the Georgia Department of Transportation. We were advised last week that that funding will be made available to us likely before the end of the month of February. That will get us right for fiscal 19. The challenge will remain on whether we will be able to continue to provide the services in motor fuel inspections, audits, and revenue collection review within our Taxpayer Services Department following July 1st. With the delay in funding being delivered from the federal government and the uncertainty of that monies, the money that we are waiting for now is funding from October 1st. So we have been expending those dollars in advance of receiving those funds, and the risk only becomes greater as we move into fiscal year 20 that those funds wouldn't even be contemplated until a year from now. We would have already done 9 months plus worth of service delivery on an anticipated funding retroactively. So I absolutely would like to continue that conversation with you on how we continue to provide those services in fiscal year 20 with an uncertainty on any federal funding flow.
Okay. All righty. Thank you for that. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
the
much.
job y'all do.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next, we've got DNR. Commissioner Williams, come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll find DNR starting on pages 14 and 15. We have no enhancements except for the 2% merit-based pay increase, and we are, like the other commissioner said, very thankful for that. So I'll call your attention to our bond package. Bond 71-52-371 is $1,535,000 for 5-year bonds to replace 45 vehicles statewide. This is across all our divisions, our normal rotation. Bond 72-52-3-72 provides $2.5 million in 5-year bonds to purchase lab equipment for EPD water lab. As y'all know, I'm not over EPD, but their bond package is in mind. So, Bond 73-52-3-73 is $12,550,000 in 20-year bonds for facility major improvements and renovations statewide and across all our divisions. Bond 74 is $4 million in 20-year bonds for facility major improvements and renovations for North Georgia Mountains Authority statewide. They are administratively attached to us for bonding. That is the organization that manages the 5 lodge parks around the state, Brasstown, Amicalola, Unicoi, and others. Bond 75 provides $500,000 in 5-year bonds for our continued ADA compliance statewide on our properties. And that's our report, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Good deal. We got any questions? All right. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. The $12 million bond, give me a little idea where that goes.
Cabins, facility improvements, hunter check-in stations, WMA LE boat docks, just
So wide
across
range.
all divisions, yes.
Okay.
Roofs, air conditioners, those type of things.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Anybody else? Y'all gonna let him off easy?
Thank you.
Man, Commissioner, you do a great job, I guess. I don't see any more questions.
Well,
Yeah.
well, there's always the
Turkey
hog-
season's
hog-
right
hog,
around the
yeah.
corner.
That's gonna
Hogs
say.
are year round,
That's
so
right.
help yourself.
Good deal. Well, thank you for what
Thank
you
you,
do.
Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it. All right. If nobody's got anything else, then we'll be adjourned. Thank y'all.